Welcome to Retrained Search, the podcast, where we lift the lid on what it's really like to work retained, discuss the stories we've gathered along the way, and give you all a peek behind the scenes of our amazing community and how they're getting ahead.
Hello.
Paris, how are you?
Good, Jordan. How are you, mate? You good?
Very well, thank you. I'm very hot. It's
heat wave in the UK at the moment, I heard.
Oh my God! I've never met, and I say a group of people. I'm talking like 50 or 60 million here. I've never met a group of people less capable of dealing with heat.
I was chatting to my equivalent in the UK yesterday, Ash Higgs, and he was saying that it was 33 yesterday.
Yeah.
And I just said,
I'm quite lucky, so I tend to work quite a lot from my local gym. I say gym, it's more like a health club. There's a cafe there, and I play a lot of tennis. There's tennis courts, and there's a gym, pool, and all that. So it works really well. But thank God they've got air conditioning, because I don't know how I'd survive.
Yeah. Mate, I was in the UK. I've been a couple of times now, but I was there in, when was it? When it happened? 2015, I think it was. And I went down, sort of just exploring down Oxford Street, and then I jumped on one of the buses, and I was on the bus, and I purchased one of the local newspapers, and the front page was London heat wave in capital letters. And I looked at the phone, and I looked at the weather, and it was probably about 26, 27 degrees.
Yeah, welcome to the UK.
Yeah, exactly. So,
do you know, it's ironic, because I spent a couple of weeks in Australia last year. First time. Hopefully I'll be back in October this year. And I did a week in Melbourne, and then I did a week in Sydney. And it pissed down every day.
Yeah,
that was there. I think I came like the worst month of the year,
worst
right?
Time.
But I did that. Is it Bronte to Bondi Walk?
Yeah.
Coast. Yeah, I was like the only one. It was like raining, no one else there, just me, the hardened Brit, thinking, I've got to do it. Got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, mate, you wouldn't like today in Sydney. It's torrential rain, gushing with wind. It's horrible outside. It got dark about 3:34 p.m. this afternoon, and yeah, it's not good. So we're expected torrential rain for the next 3 days. But officially, winter is here for us. So hence the weather. But
through to what? Winter go through to probably like September, October time, and then you kind of go in.
Yeah, about August, sort of September, and then it sort of starts to come good, and then December is when summer hits, and it's
Paris,
dry.
I feel sorry for you with the weather you have in Sydney, but I don't at all. Thank you for spending some time with us. Your background seems really, really exciting. So let's just jump into it. So welcome everybody to the Retained Search Show. We changed the name about a month ago. We're still quite new to this whole podcast game, Paris. And we're really lucky to have Paris Matin with us today, founder of Healthii People. Welcome, Paris. Any podcasts before? Have you done these before? Is this your first one?
Yeah, done a couple here and across the UK, and so it's always a pleasure to be on podcasts, because I think, one, I get to really talk about my passion, which is recruitment, and secondly, get to hear the wonderful things that others are doing within the industry that we're in, including yourself and Louise. So yeah, great to be here today. So thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for being with us. So to start, tell us something unexpected about you. Tell us something that people might not know.
Yeah. So before recruitment, I was a semi-professional tennis player.
Now we're talking. Welcome to the tennis podcast, everybody.
Yeah, it's just an hour of Wimbledon talk.
Yeah.
No, it's yeah. So a lot of people didn't know that. So I was aspiring to be a professional tennis player from a young age. Probably from the age of 6 is when I first really got into recruitment. Into tennis, and then into recruitment in the later years, but into tennis. So trained before, after school, got into my teenage years, started to take it a lot more seriously, and then I ended up leaving school quite early. I left 2 years before what we've got here, which is called the HSC, and basically made a decision to pursue tennis full time. Traveled, pursued it at a semi-professional level, and it was quite difficult at that stage because unless you're sort of top 100, top 200 in the world, very difficult to make a living out of. And unfortunately, at the age of 22, I had a really serious injury. I tore my groin, and that put me out for about a year. So I got back into it about the age of 23. And I remember competing at a tournament, and my coach afterwards pulled me aside and he said, you don't have it in you anymore. And I was like, what do you mean? Of course, just because I lost this match doesn't mean that my heart's not in it. And he goes, it's not. He goes, I can just tell. And I was like, wow. So we sat down, we got back to Sydney, sat down and made the decision to sort of hang the rackets up and quit full-time tennis.
I don't think people appreciate. So listen, I say I play a lot of tennis. I play at a good standard. Like the team I play in, we've just won our county championships and stuff like that, which is great. But I've only been playing tennis for like 4 years now, probably. I started in the middle of COVID. It was one of the first sports you could play again in the UK. I'll do that because it gets me out of the house. The thing that's kind of blown my mind with it is just the strain it puts on your body. Tennis. Like my wife's like, you are like a cripple. You're 33 and like you can't get in and out of the car. And I'm like, that's not me. The lads I play with are 23 and they can't get in and out of the car either. So an injury, it makes it difficult. Do you still play now?
Yeah, more socially. So I sort of at 23 hung the rackets up full time, obviously professionally. I was like, that's it, I'm done. I ended up after that though getting my coaching license. So I coached tennis for probably about 6 to 9 months after that, and so all levels from kids right through to adults to corporates to mums clubs to whatever it was, holiday camps, and thoroughly enjoyed it. But what happened was with us in Australia, it's very seasonal when it comes to tennis because of the weather. So we're in winter at the moment, and we're currently going through torrential rain. So tennis courts are flooded. We don't really have indoor courts in Australia. So for that, if you're not on the court and you lose out for 2 weeks of time in revenue or income. So had to make a really a pretty serious decision then and there to actually put tennis aside and really pursue something in terms of a career.
Nice. And that leads us very nicely. That's a lovely segue into you and your business. So Healthii People, for those listening, what is Healthii People all about?
Yeah, so I might take it a step backwards. So in terms of my career journey, that started 15 years ago. So obviously after deciding to quit tennis. And from there, I was one of the few Aussies that actually wanted to get into recruitment. Many sort of go, I fell into recruitment, or a mate of mine told me I'd be good at it, so I'll get into it. But I genuinely pursued it. I wanted to get into recruitment and really pushed hard to get into it. I ended up getting an opportunity to interview at a recruitment agency. And at the time, it was really fierce in terms of getting into recruitment back then in 2010. And they had no job.
There's loads of Brits coming out even in 2010.
Yeah, totally. So, and the agency that I ended up getting a job in, I think 80% were Brits. So I was the odd one out. But I went for an interview. The state manager at the time, she was like, look, we've got no jobs for someone like you. You've got no experience. You've got no sales background. We just don't have anything. I was like, no, I really need to get into recruitment. You
got a great serve.
Yeah, exactly. I can help you with serves. And what came upon me then, Jordan, was like, I'm not leaving this room until I get a job. So I basically said to her, I was like, look, I'm willing to pay you $50 a day to have me here and sit behind the consultants and just take notes, watch how they recruit, go get their coffees, go to the post office, whatever you need, any errands that you need, I'll be that person. I really want to get into it. And she was like, firstly, we can't take money off you. Secondly, you want to get into it that badly? And I was like, I do. She goes, okay, start Monday on an unpaid internship, and you'll come in and you'll do what you've just said. You sort of analyze, sit back, take any calls, any messages, go get coffees, any errands that we need. But come in on Monday. And I was like, great. So I left there and I was like, okay, this is my way in. got in on the Monday. By the Thursday, the state manager was like, "Can I see you in my office?" And I was like, "Crap, what have I done?" And she came in and she said, "Look, we've got some early feedback. The team think you're fantastic. You've picked things up really quickly. You took a few messages on the phone and you handled it really well. How would you like to take a para consultant role here, which is essentially a resourcer role? And you'd be on a contract, you'd be on a salary as well, and that would start next Monday, right through to the end of the year. And that was at the time like February, March. So I had a good 9 months as a recruitment resourcer, and then I got to the end of that where, unfortunately, there was a freeze within the agency where they weren't able to take on permanent staff. So I had to sort of part ways there. And then I got my first 360 recruitment role at Randstad. And I did early childhood there, early childhood recruitment, which is more nursery for you guys in the UK, and schools. And I loved it. And I was there for a couple of years, then transitioned to another agency. And that's then when I found my calling into healthcare. And I've been in healthcare recruitment now for 10 years. The last 6 years, I've co-founded healthcare agencies, and Healthii People's my third startup venture. And I got the opportunity early last year to partner with a global talent solutions group called Oxo Group, which is based in the UK. They were formerly known as the MCG Group. Quite a big group. They do in excess of about 200 million turnover a year. Got 12 different brands across the likes of the UK, Europe, Singapore, Dubai, New Zealand, Atlanta, and now Australia. So I partnered up with the guys early last year, and with the vision to bring out healthcare here in Australia. And we did that in May last year. We launched the business formerly known as MCG Healthcare, but we rebranded this year in March to Healthii People. So,
and tell us what type of clients you guys typically serve?
Yeah, so more traditional healthcare. So anything within allied health. So whether it's physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech, those types of verticals or roles. We also look after a lot within the residential aged care space. So elderly homes, home care, and aged care facilities. And then we also do a lot of work in social services. So that's a lot of community service type work and social work psychology. So mental health clinicians, psychologists, counselors, those types of roles as well. So they're the four sort of verticals to within our business. And we do a mixture of temp and perm.
Nice. Great. And I think a lot of people, I would really like to kind of just draw on your experience of recruitment in Australia. We've got a lot of customers in Australia, and I know a lot of the people listening to this podcast are going to be very interested in the market and where it's heading. I saw a post of yours, Paris, on LinkedIn, I think it was probably about a month ago, where you were talking about the shift in the playbook that people need to use in recruitment to be successful, and how that kind of high volume, low touch approach is going to cease to exist or cease to work and be replaced. Tell me a little bit about what you see with Healthii People, but more generically speaking, recruitment in Australia. What's your take on recruitment in Australia right now? What's going on?
Yeah, look, I think it's we're in a really positive time within the industry, within the economy here in Australia. I think I'm talking to a lot of counterparts and people in the UK, week on week, and times are pretty tough at the moment in the UK. The economy's not the greatest. There's certain sectors that are really doing it tough. Whereas Australia, we've been quite fortunate, even when we do have maybe a tougher couple of months within the economy, or sectors still thrive, and there's still that opportunity to get work on. So I think it's a really buoyant time as well in particular sectors like healthcare, education, engineering. Some of these sectors where the work is there, the demand is there, the supply is not. And Australia has a real demand supply issue, especially when it comes to more specialties like healthcare and education, where we just don't have enough of the supply. We have a lot of demands, but not enough supply. So that's a challenge. But I think overall, we're in a pretty good position here in Australia. And you'll see a lot of international agencies are starting to peep over here in Australia and look at opportunities to set up and offer services, here, because there is such a good market for that. So yeah, I think we're in a really good time. We're in a really positive time within the recruitment sector. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, everyone has their own challenges. Certain sectors will have it, but overall, I think it's a pretty positive time that we're in at the moment here in Australia.
And going back to that post about the change in playbooks and what it's going to take to be successful, how are you and the team at Healthii People combating that? What are you guys doing with your customers that's working well in terms of building partnership, adding value, being consultative?
Yeah, exactly what you just said there, mate. Being consultative. I think that's the first approach. Rather than being recruiters, we're being consultants, or we're being consultative to our approach. And that's really important, especially in an industry like healthcare, where, a lot of the softer skills that our candidates have, for instance, that go out and work in the fields and, work with clients they've got empathy, compassion, care, so these sorts of skills that are a lot softer, that, it's really important for us as consultants that we're consultative to that. We understand, we listen. And I think the other side to it is that, we're authentic, we're real, we're ourselves. We're in a people's business at the end of the day, and we've got to relate to people. And, we all go through challenges from one time to another in our lives. And, if we can relate to those challenges or just be there to listen and understand, I think that's a real advantage. And I think going back to what you were saying about my post last month is, being authentic, being real, but, people seeing the real side to you rather than it being transactional and showcasing that you're just here to make a deal and move on to the next person. So for that, we really take our approach really seriously when we deal with candidates and clients as well. When we partner with clients, we're there for the long term. So we want to showcase that. We really want to understand what those needs are. And I'll give you an example. Today we had a client meeting. It was scheduled for a half an hour meeting, ended up being an hour and a half. So, that's for us to really understand what the client's needs are, but also where it all started for that client, where they've come, what's their challenges been from a workforce planning perspective the last 6 to 12 months. What have they got installed the next 6 to 12 months? What do the teams look like? What do their cultures look like? All of that information is really important, but it also shows that we actually genuinely care, rather than, hey, have you got a job on? Cool, give it to us. We'll try fill it.
It's interesting because obviously we help people with more retained work, right? That's the reason we exist, is to kind of move people away from that transactional contingent model and allow them to work in committed partnership and be paid for the work that they do. And I think often people join us and have a misconception that it's basically going to be some big, elaborate hard sell, and we're going to teach them how to do that. But actually, the foundation of it all is that diagnostic and that needs analysis. Like, without truly understanding, is there a challenge that needs fixing first? Is there a problem? Because if there's not, if they're working contingently and they're getting exactly what they want when they need it and they enjoy it, they should keep doing it.
Are you enjoying this so far? Don't miss a single episode. Hit the subscribe button right now so you can be part of the conversation that's shaping the future of recruitment. So we dive really deep into the strategies, the stories, and the truth about retained search. So if you want to hear more about it, or you know someone else that needs to hear this, then share it with them. Right, let's get back to the good stuff.
Absolutely.
Right?
For sure. I agree.
It's that consultative approach that underpins everything, right? And you guys, it seems like you're doing a really good job of that. What difference has that made, Paris, in terms of the way in which you partner customers, in terms of the solutions that you provide? What doors has that diagnostic opened for you?
Yeah, many doors, mate. And just on, solutions and offerings, we've got 3 service models here at Healthii People. So our first one is, of course, contingent. Our second one is our retained, and our third is our project retained. So we have a service model or an offering that suits any client's needs or budgets that they have, or urgencies. And something that we really emphasize on when we do go into a client meeting is essentially it's the client's choice of what model they want to go down. But we also say that depending on the urgency is dependent on the model that we would advise that you take as well, because that's the difference, I think, with really trying to sell something that people don't understand, but then secondly selling something that makes sense and adds value as well. So I think for that we've come up with 3 service models. Each and every of those service models are quite different in what resources and tools we offer, depending on the service model. But that's opened a lot of doors for us, especially the retained and project retained. We find that clients that will have a lot of urgency around some of the roles needing to be filled immediately, some challenging areas or locations here in Australia that they've struggled with over a short period or a long period of time. So really showcasing a different approach, which many of our clients that do choose our retained or project retained have traditionally gone with the contingent model. And
it's great to hear you say that though as well, because one of the biggest misconceptions I hear, not just with Australian recruiters, but kind of globally, is people thinking that you sell retained when it's senior.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. If it's senior, we sell retained. And if it's not senior, we work it contingently. What I've come to find over the years of doing this is retained is just a solution to a problem.
It is.
Like if it's a straightforward hire, contingent can work really, really well. But when it's more challenging and the team needs to provide more resource and more rigor and go further, it's really difficult to justify that commercially when we might not get paid for it. So all it does is allow us to provide the level of service needed. But some of the easiest roles are filled are senior roles. Like it can be difficult, as you say, right? Because it's in a really tough location, or the company's got a really bad rep in the market, or the salary doesn't seem right, or loads of reasons, right?
Exactly right. So, for that, we offer a variety of options to clients, and we talk through that. We talk through each option, and it's a really important something to note as well for the listeners is, with retained and project retained, it's an education piece. We need to be educating our clients as to what retained and project retained is all about. And I think there is a misconception out there, and I get it from clients from time to time, where they say, "Oh, okay, so if we take the retained model, you guarantee you're going to find us somebody." Now, we can never guarantee whether it's contingent, retained, project retained, whatever, of finding.
Right?
We're dealing with the human mind. Their mind shift, it changes. Certain things change. The market might change. Something might happen. So you can never guarantee. But what we say there is, with retained and project retained, the resources and tools we invest into that, with that investment that they pay up front, is going to allow us to find that person sooner than perhaps a contingent model or something else.
And actually what it allows them to do is make informed decisions, irrespective of what we find, right? Like actually, if the person doesn't exist, they don't exist, right? Yeah. But the challenge on a contingent model is often the customer has no idea. Like we're not seeing CVs, but we don't actually know why. We don't know if they exist or they don't. Are they interested? Are they not? Yeah. On a retained basis, it allows us to deliver in a way that removes uncertainty. And
also there's commitment from both parties, right? Absolutely. So you'll know this, and listeners out there, may have come across this, where you take a contingent roll on with a client, and all of a sudden it's crickets. You get no emails, no phone calls. There's just no communication for weeks on end. And then you get to 3-4 weeks down the track, finally get a hold of the client, and the client says, "Oh, we've internally hired Tommy, who's going to take that role. He starts on Monday. Thanks, but no thanks." So now all of a sudden,
Paris, you've done such a great job. Next time with Recruitment, we'll make sure we call you again.
Yeah, exactly. So I think going back to it, it's an education piece, and I think for us, especially when we're on client meetings or meeting with clients for the first time, it's very much educating them on the differences of those service models that we do have and what retained means. What the project retained, that model that we have is just more for bulk recruitment needs. So whether an organization will have 5 to 10 to 15 types of roles that they need filling, then we put them on a project retain.
I'm assuming the delivery process there it provides the same rigor, the same structure. There's probably just some economies of scale in terms of how you package it commercially.
Yeah, definitely. So the commercial side of it is a little bit different. Our retained is of a percentage, project retained is of a flat fee, and that's a tiered scale. And then in terms of the offerings or the resources, there's 2 or 3 that you would get on the project retain that you don't get on the retain, but everything else is the same.
And if we go away from the benefits to I suppose, the customer, and look at you as a business owner now, Paris, you've obviously got, sounds like a good revenue split between that transactional contingent and stuff and the committed partnerships with clients. What difference does it make to the business having that retained element or part of the revenue committed?
Yeah, well, definitely. Firstly, guaranteed revenue coming into the business. We're able to better forecast, in terms of months ahead and quarters ahead as well. It definitely allows consultants to feel a lot more committed to their desk as well. And then also obviously building that momentum and traction and relationship with their clients as well. So yeah, from a revenue perspective, definitely it's a lot easier to forecast when you know that we've got retained searches coming in or commencing that following month or that following quarter. We've just finished a quarter here in Australia, quarter 2, so April, May, June for us. Yeah. We were able to already in June forecast 2 retained searches that commenced this week actually. So I think from that side, it's a lot easier rather than solely having contingent work on your desk and hoping that it is going to land in that month or that quarter. Makes a difference as well.
Actually, we had don't know. Do you know Rod Hoare? He's
yes.
He's in Perth.
Yep.
Perth.
Yep.
So we had Rod on the podcast probably 6 or 8 months ago. And, he was talking about the long-term value that you're building in a business as well. For any owners, leaders listening to this, that kind of exit strategy at some point, it is very difficult to value a fully contingent permanent recruitment business.
It is. It's very hard. And, there's an old saying in recruitment, you're only as good as your last month in terms of billings. And I think that's heavily drawn towards contingent, because if you look at retained, project retained, well, you can start to really structure and understand what that desk is worth as well.
But it's not easy, right? And
no.
You guys, Healthii People, are in a place that I'm sure a lot of our listeners aspire to be in terms of really clear definition between the product, achieving it consistently. I know that won't have been plain sailing. What challenges have you faced along the way getting to this stage?
Yeah, look, I don't get me wrong. I was introduced to retain I'd say probably 7-8 years ago now. I heard of another recruiter in the industry selling retained, and at the time, I remember they were selling it in 3 stages as well. So a percentage or a portion up front, a portion at offer stage, and then a portion when they started. And I didn't really understand it at first, the value in it and why they were doing it. But I did a bit of research, looked into it, and I just started. I started on my own, and I started pitching it. And I started, I learned the hard way. There was many mistakes. There was many conversations I had that didn't make sense to the client, and therefore, there was a lot of no's. But over the years, I kept at it. I kept consistently at it, and I was persistent with obviously, delivering that service, and it paid off in the end. So the last 5 years, I've successfully sold retained and project retained. As little as a $4,000 placement, right through to $160,000 worth of retained. So and that just varies over the years in terms of different placements and different projects. But it can be challenging at the start, and especially if you're not used to it or you've not been educated or shown how to sell retained or project retained, it can be quite daunting. And some of the challenges we had here at Healthii People was when we were hiring consultants to join us, they were coming from a very contingent background,
Yeah.
and trying to shift that mentality and mindset to say, well, we do things a little bit differently here, and our offerings are a little bit unique in a sense, but hear me out, and it'll definitely pay off in the long run. And now we've got this particular consultant. All he wants to do is retain and project retain. He doesn't want to go back to contingent, but to his credit, he's got quite a good balance of both contingent.
It's amazing, isn't it, how people's mindsets shift when they see something as possible. Right? It's like, actually, I quite like contingent until I realised that actually customers will commit and work in partnership with me, and now it makes no sense anymore to work contingently, right? So that's really good. What's something now, looking back, Paris, you wish you'd known earlier?
Probably just the value of being able to commit to giving it your all to a client in terms of filling a role. And I think, so often we can fall in that trap on a contingent only desk, is continuing to take more and more and more work on. And then all of a sudden you're drowning in, 20, 30, 40 roles, and not really focusing on the value or the quality of your delivery in terms of filling those roles. Because, I'm a big believer not to have too much on your desk, otherwise it's too messy. So for me, I sort of really talk through with my guys, 8 to 10 roles at any given time on your desk is more than enough for one person.
So, right?
Yeah. So, it's something that, if I had my time again, I definitely would have started to do a lot, retained recruitment a lot earlier, just because of the value I see in it, but also that commitment piece. And it's interesting as well, when we talk about commitment from clients and recruiters, and don't get me wrong, it's not a podcast to sledge clients, but recruiters will do it at times as well, is they'll ghost the client, or the client will ghost that recruiter. So it's interesting when, an investment's paid up front, that the commitment you get and the communication you get is almost every day. Where are we at with this search? Where are we at? We started this last week. Have we got any candidates through? And it's quite nice, because then you really enter in a partnership now where you can communicate frequently and get to know each other.
One of our mastery members. So we run a mastery program for more experienced, typically the business owners that are at least like 70 or 80% retained. And one of them puts it really nicely. He says that when I'm working with retained, me and the customer become slaves to the problem.
Yeah.
Not a me problem. It's not a them problem. It's an us problem. And both of us, every action we take is towards fixing that problem and solving it.
Yeah, definitely. I like that. I like that.
It's a totally different experience. If you were to speak to, well, we probably are speaking to right now, recruiters, business owners in Australia or in any market, I suppose, in terms of geography, who are right at the beginning of that journey to retain, what advice would you give someone?
Yeah, good question. I think definitely, firstly, understand your USPs as an agency or as a recruiter. So get that down pat first. What's your USPs? If you're if you're a specialty recruiter that specializes within a certain vertical or sector, a USP might be that you might have lived experience in that sector. You might, really understand it. You may have worked in that sector before, so you can relate to those clients a little bit better. So that's an example, but really understanding your USPs, and then understanding what your agency or what you as a recruiter can offer your clients, more than just finding that person. So whether or not you as an agency or as a recruiter, you have really good tech tools that you can use, whether you've got really good marketing and branding that you can support clients with. So there's different parts to it as well. But I think definitely get that on paper first, and then start to ease into that, and I wouldn't say now all of a sudden tomorrow pick up the phones to 50 people and start selling retained only, but start to bring it into your conversations with clients. And maybe I would probably say start with a client that you've worked with quite a lot, because you've produced and shown and delivered on what the deliverables are of finding candidates. So you've got that trust from them, and now it's about looking at how can you find a more cost-effective solution to some of their future problems.
Yeah, yeah, and delivery is important too, as well, right? The amount of people
Totally.
we have come and join us that have just winged a retained pitch for the client. The customer's gone, yeah, okay, and then they've gone, oh shit, no
Where do I
idea
start?
how do I deliver it now?
Yeah. And I think, mate, to be honest with you, and I've worked with many consultants over the years on this, is knowing your worth is really important when you take on retained, right? So at the end of the day, it shouldn't be daunting. There's no false promises. And like I said to you earlier, we can never guarantee a client, whether it is contingent or retained, that we are going to find that perfect person for them, because things happen, right? But I think what we need to say to the client is, we're committed now and you're committed to us by this. So it shouldn't be daunting. It should be same as when you are selling contingent. I think the only difference is because the investment's up front, consultants sometimes, can revert into their shell and sort of think, what happens if I don't make this placement for them? They're going to, they're not going to use us again, or they're going to want refund or things like that. So I think it's the mindset going into it. It's the mentality.
I still remember the first ever session I did with Louise, because I was one of the first people to do this training with Louise. I was just a wet behind ear contingent recruiter.
Yeah.
And I remember the first session Lou did with us. She kind of made us write down on a whiteboard everything we hate about recruitment and everything that stops us filling a position.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like, you can imagine counter offers and clients pulling headcount and other agencies filling our jobs and all that stuff. And actually, what Lou said at the end of it is almost all of that goes away if you're retained. If you remove other agencies and you work in partnership with a client and you get quick CV feedback, you get quick feedback on interviews, and they have weekly steering calls, how often is it you actually wouldn't fill a position?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah, of course, if I had all of that, of course I fill it.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, it seemed like a pipe dream at the time. I was never going to get all of that. And then you realize there is a way.
Yeah. Well, it's similar to, put it this way, right? Recruiters coming into the industry for the first time, it's daunting to pick up a phone in front of everybody in their first couple of weeks. They're having to make BD calls. They're having to, generate candidates. So again, you could say, well, what's the difference there? A recruiter coming into a new agency for the first time or coming into recruitment for the first time, they've got the same challenges where they feel like it's, it's quite daunting, or they're not confident, or they're not comfortable as yet. And it goes the same with selling retained. Of course, you're not going to be comfortable or confident in your first couple of tries, but after a while, if you just consistent at it and keep chipping away at it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Really, really good. Tell us what's next for you, Paris. What's next for Healthii People?
Yeah, so we'll continue to grow. We're in a phase now where we've just entered year 2. Last month was May we celebrated 1 year. So we're coming into year 2. Thank you. Yeah, so we're on this trajectory now of growth, strategic growth, bringing in like-minded individuals that really want to come on this journey with us. It's quite exciting. And then we'll diversify in terms of services and offerings into other sectors within healthcare. So within the acute hospital setting, within also the GP medical setting as well. So there's a few there. As well, with our service offerings will come in terms of what we can offer from a recruitment perspective, that is not just contingent retain, project retain, but potentially some RPO MSP work as well.
Very exciting. Very exciting. So if I'm a recruiter in Australia thinking, I want a bit of that, how can people reach you, Paris? Where can they find you?
First off, LinkedIn. I've got a pretty unique name, so there's not many Parises that are in recruitment in Australia. I think there's about 2 or 3 others. So you'll definitely find me on LinkedIn, or check out our website, www.healthiepeople.com.au. That'll showcase sort of our sort of style and the brand and what we're about, and what we do. Or thirdly, you can reach out to us as well at our email address, which is hello@healthiepeople.com.au as well.
And for anyone listening, Healthii is Healthii, right?
Correct. Yes. Thank you for that. I should have made that clear. But so there's a reason behind that as well. The two I's are people coming together. So obviously within healthcare, we know, you have a person that comes to help somebody else to make them feel better. So there's a bit of a story behind the brand, but it is with two I's.
Awesome. Paris, it's been an absolute pleasure. I know how busy you are, so thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know it's been really insightful. Now I know our listeners will be very appreciative too.
Thank you.
Last question: when I'm in Australia in October, are we playing tennis? And do you want forehand or backhand side when we have a game of doubles?
Forehand. I'm a lefty, so
lefty. No.
Are you a lefty?
Two lefties, Paris. They're gonna hate. They're gonna hate us.
Definitely, mate. I'll book a court and let's get something booked in.
Yeah. Thank you again so much. Anyone that wants to reach out to Paris, please do. If I was a recruiter in Sydney, Paris, I would want to come and work for you guys. So
thank you, mate. I appreciate that.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Paris.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Well, that's another episode of Retrain Search, the podcast in the bag. Thanks for listening to our wild tales, LinkedIn controversies, and our top tips on how to sell and deliver retained search. Get involved in our next episode. Send in your questions and share your experiences with us by emailing podcast@retrainedsearch.com. And don't be shy. Connect with us on LinkedIn and come and say hi. We don't bite. Unless you're a Shrek firm, that is. We want to say a special thank you to our retrained members for sharing what's working for them right now and innovating new ways to grow and evolve. It's an incredible community. If you're wondering what exactly we mean when we mention our communities, well, we have two separate programs. Our Search Foundations program is for recruiters who want to learn how to sell and deliver retained search solutions consistently. And we have our Search Mastery program. That's for business leaders or owners already at 50% retained or more and looking to scale and grow and structure their search firm. We cap memberships to these programs to protect the integrity of the community. If you want access, just talk to us. Okay, thanks for listening. We'll be back very soon with another episode of Retrain Search, the podcast.